Space Shuttle, this is flight safety. Keep your hands on the handrail or inside the vehicle and remain seated while in motion. You are clear for launch. Have a great flight to Starport 75.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Oh, I'm so good because, I don't know, it was December was the last time we were here?
It was December,
is that right?
Yeah.
It was a long time. I'm glad those paychecks keep rolling in, though. I about that. So thanks. And that Christmas bonus was very nice, too.
You like that?
That.
Did you, you like
Yeah,
that?
it's really lovely. Thank you.
Membership to the Jelly of the Month Club.
That's got to be a reference.
It is.
Okay, I'll look it up later. But more importantly, not that I don't love talking to you, but we have a guest back with us today, Mr. Casey Liss, who's been with us 2 other times so far. Is that right?
Something like that. You just can't get rid of me.
Well, how many bets did you lose exactly?
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Hey, man. So if you don't remember from last other shows, Casey he's actually a professional podcaster on Accidental Tech Podcast, Analog. You got like a whole a suite of them now, right? Portfolio.
The regular ones are ATP, the Accidental Tech Podcast, and Analog, which is part of Relay FM. And coming in annoying you guys periodically. I think it's basically my side hustle at this point.
I love it. And App Maker, right? How your apps doing?
Yep. I had one in the store that has since been retired called Vignette, and then I have Peekaview, which actually was inspired by my most recent Disney trip, which was too long ago. And in short, it lets you give your phone to your toddler who is screaming and moaning about being not even 2 years old at Disney World, and lets them look through the pictures on your phone without the risk of deleting them or anything like that. That's called Peekaview. And it's in the App Store. And we don't need to shill for my stuff anymore. And, I'm going to go off the rails. You guys have show notes that I'm ignoring now because that's apparently the kind of guy I am. I have great news, gentlemen. I have excellent news.
Yeah?
You thought that this past week, that Wednesday was the day that everything took a turn. And it took a turn for the better. But you were wrong, gentlemen.
Really?
You were wrong. Well, no,
Okay.
Actually, you were right. But it's next week, next Saturday, that everything takes a turn to awesome. Do you know what's happening next Saturday, allegedly?
Next Saturday. No.
The Rolex 24.
Yes, but that's not at all what I was thinking of. Gentlemen, what would I be talking about that relates to Disney World that may be happening a week from this coming Saturday on the 30th of January?
Are you making a trip?
No, oh God, no. Are you kidding? I'm way too allergic to the inside and people. No, the Tomorrowland Transit Authority People Mover is supposedly going to be opening a week from Saturday.
I've heard that rumor. That is true, man. Casey, you are on top of it, man.
I don't know about that.
Clearly, he's gunning for my job because I have no idea. What was happening.
Yeah, well, we need to talk after this, Casey.
All right. Well, I'll have my people call your people. No, all kidding aside, I had looked it up beforehand because I knew it had been closed for refurbishment, and I had heard that it was getting close to being done, but I didn't know exactly what the date was. And as of like 15 minutes ago, I discovered apparently it's the 30th of January, or so they claim.
Yeah.
That's great. And you know what? You can socially distance on that ride too. So
That is true. That is one of the few ones that I would actually consider going on.
Wow. Okay. So no trip in the. I really. I thought you were going to say, "Yep, you booked a trip and you're going to brave it."
No, unfortunately not. Can I tell you a story that you're probably going to want to cut because it's not that interesting? But here I am. After we went on our last trip, we had done, and I think we spoke about it on the show. We had done David's Vacation Club rentals, and we had gotten a room in the Bay Lake Tower through buying points through the third party and so on and so forth, and it worked out flawlessly. Like, it was great. There were a couple of odd things about it, but by and large it worked out excellently. And we got this room at Bay Lake Tower for, I got to imagine it was like 60% of what the rack rate would have been if we had just gone directly to Disney. And so I'm happy as pig and poop. Everything's great. So I have a dear friend of mine who's Australian, and in 2020 he was planning on going to Disney with his wife and his very, very young daughter. And he asked me about this, and he said, what was that thing that you used? Did it work out for you? And I was like, oh yeah, it worked out great. You should definitely try it. And then the world ended. And turns out David's Vacation Club rentals, their cancellation policy is basically pound sand.
Wow.
So it did
really?
not work out well for him, and I feel terrible about it. Like, obviously, it wasn't really my fault, but I feel so terrible about it because here was something that was so great for me, and obviously I couldn't have foreseen anything, or none of us could have any of this happening, but man, it was really, really frustrating just watching him go through all this. And so now, like, our theoretical next trip is when my youngest turns 5. The last trip was when the eldest turned 5. And that's not until, 2023. And sitting here today, I would generally be like, heck yeah, I'm going back to vacation club rentals. And now I'm like, I don't know, man, should I, or should I get like some sort of travel insurance or something? Because who even knows?
Yeah, I was wondering. I was going to ask, do they have, and maybe you don't know, but if they offered any sort of cancellation insurance or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not
like
sure.
Cruises do that and stuff, but yeah, wow, that's a shame because I was going to look into that. We talked about it last time, and it sounded like a good option.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you have some sort of
pandemics aside,
parachute.
right?
Yeah, exactly. As long as you have some sort of parachute to keep you afloat, so to speak. If now I'm mixing metaphors, but if you have something to keep you, in case the world happens to end a second time,
Right.
then I do recommend it. But my goodness, like I don't remember when we booked if I had the option to, do the travel insurance, just like just like with a rental car. Do you want the insurance? No, I don't.
Of course not.
But
who would do that?
here they would have been helpful in their particular case. So we'll see. But that's all right. All kidding aside, this past Wednesday, as we sit here and record on the 21st, for me, it was an excellent day. I think I probably speak for you two fine gentlemen that we all thought it was pretty great. And I'll let you decide how political you want to get on this particular program. But I for one am quite pleased that things are taking hopefully a turn for the better.
Yeah. Just so our audience knows, we will dedicate certain episodes to attraction history. They don't have to be closed attractions. They could be open attractions. Our last one was about the People Mover. So we had talked to Casey and asked him if he wanted to join us, and it just made
No. Hang on. No, you glossed over that. He yelled at us for not having him on to talk about the TTA.
I was trying to be nice.
Well, let's be honest about things. So.
This is accurate.
Okay, here's the truth. We put out the People Mover episode in December, and Casey sent us a kind note to say, hey, what in the heck are you doing a People Mover episode without me? And we said, oops, sorry. So we said we would love to have you back. And we looked at the calendar and saw what was coming up with the presidential inauguration. And we said, hey, why don't we do an episode on the Hall of Presidents? We've been wanting to do one on it. And this just seemed like the perfect time to do it.
God help us all.
Certainly is the most appropriate, if not perfect. But yeah, and I don't know how political we were going to get with this too, but just kind of state my position as I told people even back when our previous president was in the primaries for his party. I said, look, it's for me looking at a candidate like him. It was not about the specific politics or party. For me, it was about that just seemed like a poor gentleman to lead our nation for so many reasons. So, from my standpoint, I'm just happy that we're back on a good track of presumably good leadership, or at least thoughtful, intelligent communication about the problems that our country's having and what we can do about it. So I share your sentiments, Casey. I told my wife it seems like it was so long ago. It was just yesterday. My goodness. As we record, feels like a week ago. It does. Like I don't think I've ever felt anything like this at a societal level of sort of this weightlifting. I can only imagine it was like maybe my grandparents felt on when World War II ended. That you just feel like, oh, okay, we can take a breath and it's probably too dramatic, but maybe not so much. It's been a rough year or so. So. Yeah, but it leads into a lot of what the implications are for this attraction and for Disney, et cetera. So that's kind of my position.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I haven't been to the Hall of Presidents in quite a long time, and it was funny in discussing this after I had egregiously insulted the two of you for not considering me for the episode on the People Mover. I had pointed out that the last time I remember even being in the building was when we had taken Declan, my son, who is now 6. We had taken him because we happened to be in the area for a wedding, and we had taken him when he was like, I don't know, 18 months old or something like that. And we took him for a couple of days into Disney, and we are the kind of parents, my wife and I, that nap time and sleep time rule our lives. And that's a conscious choice on our part. I know there are plenty of parents who are like, when you get tired, go to sleep. That was never us. That's just not our style. And so we were in the parks when it was one of Declan's nap times. And so I have a picture, which I've shared with you guys. And if you fancy putting it somewhere, you can put it in the show notes. It's a really silly picture. But anyways, it's me with a little baby resting on me as I'm leaning against the wall in the Hall of Presidents lobby, because it was somewhere that was reasonably quiet, very, very air conditioned and reasonably empty. And so the last time I remember being anywhere near the Hall of Presidents was in, this would have been like 2015, I think. And I was just basically a mattress for my son to nap on me. And so I haven't been on, I keep wanting to say on the ride. That's probably not right, but I haven't been to the show in years and years, although I did watch the version from 2017, which was actually way fancier than I remember. So maybe Glenn, you can take us through the history, because I remember it being kind of cheesy and short, and a few of these animatronic people talked, and that's all I thought it was. But certainly the video I had seen earlier tonight when I was doing my research on this was that it's quite fancy now.
Wait, we were supposed to do research?
Whoops. It is, and that's a great segue, Casey. Let's do that. Let's go through the history. Let's talk about why it's important in Disney's history, how it came about, and what it is today. And I'll try to be brief, but I can't make any promises.
Well, I have my Coke energy drink, so I'm good to go.
Well done.
You take all the time you need, as far as I'm concerned.
The idea for all of this really started in 1956. The first land that Walt wanted to add to Disneyland was an area devoted to America's founding principles. It was going to be called Liberty Street, and it was going to be located off of Town Square on Main Street. And the main attraction was going to be called One Nation Under God. And the idea was the finale was going to be a Hall of Presidents with an animated life-size figure of each president, with Lincoln being the focus, mainly because President Lincoln was one of Walt's childhood heroes. They were both from Illinois, obviously. So he loved Lincoln growing up. He wanted to include him in this attraction. Unfortunately, the technology in 1956 wasn't advanced enough. They hadn't come up with audio animatronics yet. Audio animatronics wasn't developed until 1961. And the first attraction was the Enchanted Tiki Room in 63.
Were you waiting for my negative reaction about the Enchanted Tiki Room? Is that what the pause was for?
No, you love the Enchanted Tiki Room,
I do.
right?
Well, now I do, because my son loves it. That stupid kid. Yeah. Now I like it. God damn it.
Well, so the Tiki Room has very basic audio animatronics, right? It's just birds and flowers that basically just move a little bit and open their mouths. So
And make a lot of clacking noises.
Make a lot of clacking noise, right?
Yeah,
So it was a very primitive form of the robotics, and they hadn't developed humans yet. So what happened was Walt was approached to create some attractions for the 64-65 New York World's Fair. So Walt, he thought about it. He was like, this can do two things. One is it can fund the development of major technical advancements, such as audio animatronics and the People Mover system that he could implement in Disneyland. And the sponsors would pay for it. So that was number one. And then number two was they helped demonstrate to Walt that there was an East Coast audience for Disney entertainment. So he went full bore into it, and he created 4 attractions for the World's Fair. He created Progress Land, It's a Small World, the Magic Skyway for Ford, and then the last one was Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln for the Illinois State Pavilion. Walt invited the head of the fair to tour his studio. The guy's name was Robert Moses, and he was so impressed by the One Nation Under God concept, he insisted on including it in the fair. He said he wouldn't open the fair unless that was part of it. But Walt knew he wasn't going to be able to do the full thing with all of the presidents, so he focused on just the Lincoln animatronic and getting that ready for the World's Fair. The complexity was Abraham Lincoln in the show is sitting in a chair, and then he stands, gives his speech, and then sits back down. That was pretty ambitious for them to tackle for their first audio animatronic figure, but they did it. And the show was at capacity for every showing. It was in a theater with about 500 seats, and it was always filled. So Walt, he built another one for Disneyland. In 1964, it was just running at the World's Fair, but by July of 65, he opened the one in Disneyland, and it was running on both coasts for the rest of that year.
Both coasts being Excuse me, both coasts being the World's Fair and
Yes,
Disney.
New York and Disneyland. Yes,
Because we're still a number of years before Disney World opens, right?
yes, we are.
For some reason, I always my brain likes to reverse the World's Fair thing in Disneyland. I always think like the World's Fair came first, but no, 10 years after the Disneyland opened, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
All right.
So Walt passed away in
What?
1966. But they were laying out the plans for Disney World, which was going to be opening in 1971. And as they were looking through the plans, they said, hey, why don't we revisit this Liberty Street idea and make it a land in Disney World? So they did that. And they said, okay, well, why don't we also try to do this One Nation Under God show, which eventually became the Hall of Presidents. And so the Hall of Presidents, it was an opening day attraction on October 1st, 1971. And it opened with audio animatronics of all 36 presidents at the time. So the show, it starts with a film presentation of the history of the United States. After that, the screen lifts up and all the presidents are shown and introduced. And each one gives, as they're introduced, gives a nod or a wave. And then once all the introductions are done, Lincoln stood up from his chair and gave pretty much the exact same speech he gave from Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln at Disneyland. And then the show pretty much ended with the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Okay. So the original concept was because it's important as it comes up, the contemporary president or recent presidents, none of them spoke. It was only Mr. Lincoln that spoke, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Gotcha.
Now, also, I have a question. So for real-time follow-up here, you said which attractions were part of the World's Fair at the same time as Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln?
Progress Land, which became Carousel of Progress.
Okay, that's where I got confused because I could have sworn Carousel of Progress, which is one of my favorites, I could have sworn it was from a World's Fair, but I did not know that it was once called Progress Land. Okay, my faith in you is redeemed. Everything is good.
So obviously, what we need to do is plan a trip. Once the world gets back together again, we got to plan a trip to Tomorrowland, and we could just go hang out on Carousel of Progress, the TTA.
Oh, absolutely.
And then we got like a whole day of it, right?
Yeah, man,
I am in.
I'm there.
All three of us. Yeah, it's all the same cloth. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
To your point, Chris, every election after that, they added the new animatronic. So it opened through Nixon, and then they added Ford, Carter, Reagan, George H.W. Bush. And then when it came to Bill Clinton, they decided to redo the Hall of Presidents. And the biggest change was that Bill Clinton recorded a speech for the attraction. And the Clinton audio animatronic spoke and gave that speech that he recorded. They continued that after that for George W. Bush, for Obama, and then for Trump.
So they shifted with Clinton to start having contemporary presidents give their speeches, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The show is it closed yesterday, and it is Disney has officially announced they didn't really say that they were going to be closing it on inauguration day, but they did. But they did come out, and there was a lot of speculation. Oh, what's going to happen? They did come out and officially announce that, yes, we are adding President Biden to the attraction. Now, that doesn't mean that the show's going to stay the same and that Biden is going to speak. So
this is where the fun begins.
So this is where the fun begins. So that's the
okay.
the history. It's a great show. It does give a decent representation of the history of the United States. It is kind of cool to see all the presidents up there and what they look like. And at its basic, it's a history lesson.
So if you don't mind, before you get into the kind of the what's next, so I just feel like I have to confess something, like because I knew this was coming. I was thinking about it. I don't think I ever saw the Obama version, to be honest. I think it was one of those things. Yeah, because I think it was like one of those things where like, we come here all the time. We'll catch it eventually, right? And then these years slip by. So I don't think we saw that. But I had a question for you. In your research, did you come across any film videos of the World's Fair version? I've seen lots from Disneyland, Mr. Lincoln, but did you see any going like way back that we could put in the show notes that I could watch later?
I did run across the reference to that there was no official recording made. So the only
That's insane.
I know the only
I know,
recordings we have of it are very amateur and photos. There's no. In fact, when the fair ended, they demolished the pavilion and they thought that they had lost the Lincoln audio animatronic. But the fair had actually saved that and sent it back to Disney. But I guess Disney has it's like the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the end, where they just put things and lose it. Because it wasn't until many decades later that they realized, oh my God, this is the original Lincoln animatronic. And now you can see it. It's that's the animatronic that's in One Man's, or I don't, what do they call it now? But One Man's Dream in Hollywood Studios.
There's an animatronic in there? Oh, that's right. Like a static display.
Yeah, and that's the one that's there. Is the very first one.
Casey, have you been to that it's almost like a museum, right? One
I
Man's Dream?
think so. Is this the one where they? I remember going through something in what I keep calling MGM because I'm old. It's something in MGM where it was like a walkthrough thing, and they showed. Oh God, I don't remember the name, but I remember vividly there was like a mock-up of the multiplane camera thing that they used to do for the animation. Is that this, or is that something else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, I don't remember seeing Lincoln there though.
Yeah, he's in the back. If you keep going past that, he
doesn't look like Lincoln, right? He just looks like
no,
a skeleton,
right. He exactly. There's no skin on him, so he's just the
creepy.
Very creepy. And so and they have a display of the control panel that they programmed him with.
Yeah, man, I probably have seen this, but I have zero recollection of it. That's too bad because this seems like my kind of stuff. As someone who was educated as an engineer, I love seeing how things work and what goes on behind them. But yeah, I don't remember seeing Lincoln at all. That's really too bad.
That's one of my favorite attractions. Sorry to go on a side rant. Is that still open, Glenn? I haven't been there in so long.
It is still open. Kind of.
That's
what I'm saying.
Threatened to close it for forever.
It's called. I think it's called Walt Disney Presents now. And they have like a character meet and greet in there, and then the movie that used to be like Walt Disney's, life. It's basically just previews of like the next big movie, but they still have like the models and the other stuff that they used to have.
Yeah. I used to love going through there. That was one of my favorite parts of that, which was done. I know this isn't for the right episode for it, but hey, whatever. That was actually done for his 100th birthday, right? For Walt's, and I thought it was supposed to only be like temporary, but it's hung around magically somehow.
Yes,
magically.
Yes, and yes.
All right.
2001 it opened, and it was just supposed to be temporary, but I still love going in there.
2001? Holy cow!
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
20 years?
20 years ago.
Oh, wow. Golly.
Crazy,
man,
right?
I am old.
You guys are so old. Hey, Glenn, you didn't take any home video at the World's Fair in '64? You don't have that
I did not.
Wow.
No, I didn't.
Brutal.
Because you like to do that. You like to document things.
I do like to document things. That's correct.
Bazinga. All right. So, sorry. Consider that like a palate cleanser. All right. So, Hall of Presidents. So, we're a current time. I just, what do I want to say? I saw photos. They have the little placard out front that says, hey, it's closed. We're getting it ready for the new president, right? Which I think is just the standard thing they put out there.
Yeah.
Unless you know differently, for some reason, I feel like it also closed on Inauguration Day last time. I might be misremembering.
Yeah, it did. But I think they kind of announced it that it was going to be closing. And this time they didn't. They were like,
and they hurried. They rushedly tried to turn over the Hillary Clinton animatronic into a Trump one. Is that? I heard that was what they did.
That's
too soon.
The rumor.
No, I don't think it is, Casey.
No, seriously, that's the rumor. Is that they were far along with.
Wait, are you really?
Hillary.
You're really being serious? That really is a rumor?
Yeah.
Well, have you seen? Glenn, I'm sorry, we're going way off your plan here, but so Casey, have you seen the Trump animatronic? It's horrid. It's I mean,
no, it is. It really doesn't look like him.
Not at
I
all.
haven't seen a good shot of it. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, well, now you got some homework. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it looks terrible. Like you figure Disney, well, they're gonna do this right. I mean, like,
oh God, that's terrifying.
You see it? Okay.
So there is a very, I would say, credible rumor or thought that they were going one direction. Which, on the other hand, though, I think like surely they could have just scrapped what they did and start over. But it's fun to talk about. So the whatever the old wives' tale is that it's that it was originally planned to be Hillary and they had to quickly recast it, redo it.
Wow,
that's hideous, right?
Well, first of all, it's hideous, but second of all, that's
I was going to say it would be hideous even if it were accurate, but this is hideously inaccurate.
Right.
Like, who is that?
Golly.
That's like Charlton Heston or something. I don't know who that is.
I don't even know. gosh, that is brutal.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So it closed right on inauguration last time, and it took them. I remember it took a while, like longer than you think, probably because they had to redo the mask. But didn't it take like a couple of months, Glenn? Do you remember?
It did. Let's see if I can find when it opened. Oh, wow. It's December 19th, 2017.
Yeah. Okay. Even longer.
Almost the whole year.
Goodness.
Wow.
Yeah,
You know what
there was a rumor that they weren't going to open it. I mean, there was a lot floating around back then. That
Actually, you're right. There was.
yeah.
There were because Disney's generally seen as a fairly left-leaning corporation. That maybe the Imagineers, I remember there was talk that they might even like boycott making it or something. Like there was all kinds of chatter that didn't happen.
So I'm reading this. They had to add finials to the guardrail that separates the front row of the audience to the stage. And they had 2 security guards stationed at each exit to make sure that people didn't attack the animatronic. Because I remember that at first people were throwing things at it, and even supporters were like throwing MAGA hats up to him. So yeah, they had to do all of that.
Trouble everywhere he goes.
Yep.
So
So it's closed, and I've been reading a bunch of stuff about this. There are a ton of rumors. Disney did come out and say that they were going to install Biden, but they have not said anything else. And so a lot of people are thinking that Biden won't speak so that they can just simply end that tradition, so that if there is another controversial president or whatever, that they don't give him that platform and go back and focus on Lincoln and the history. So that's one rumor. Another rumor is that they were going to introduce the Muppets to tell the story. And I think that they wouldn't, even with that, they wouldn't have any of the presidents speak. They would just have the Muppets in there. The reason for the Muppets is because I think like 3 years ago, they introduced the Muppets to Liberty Square. They had multiple shows during the day, and they were up in the gift shop next to the Hall of Presidents, and the crowd would form, and they would give their presentation. And they told different stories of the history of the United States, and it went over pretty well until the pandemic, and they got rid of all the entertainment. But so that's why they kind of tested it there, I guess, and said, hey, maybe we could put the Muppets in there.
did your family catch that, Casey? The
No.
Muppet thing?
No, I didn't have any idea that was there. And we went, in 2019, so we were definitely there when it was a thing. But no, I had no idea that was there. And if you'll permit me to steal a little bit of your guys' thunder, you had sent me a really interesting post called "Hall of Presidents, We're Done Here." And I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit, but one of the ideas that's spoken about here is just do the Muppets thing, like really lean into the Muppets thing. And this whole post is worth reading. Normally this sort of pontification in like armchair quarterbacking, despite me doing that all the time for Apple, normally this isn't my favorite thing in the world, but I really think this post was really well done and really well thought out. And I loved all of the different options that they came up with as possible things to do with the Hall of Presidents. As someone who just discovered Hamilton, this past year and missed the first wave back, 5 years ago, one of the options they came up with was an in-park production of Hamilton, and I am here for that. Like that sounds excellent to me. But yeah, another one was the Muppets thing, and I wish I had seen it. It seems like it was really, really, really cute and really well done, and I think that would be a great idea.
I love the Muppet. Glenn, did you guys see it? I can't remember.
We did. We caught one or two showings of it, and it was done really well. They had a presenter at the bottom, a human, and he would be the kind of the MC, and then let the Muppets actually tell the story.
Yeah, I think we only caught it once when it was first came out. I really liked it. I thought it was really well done, and it was nice because it wasn't. And I think we talked about it actually in the podcast a long time ago. Because it wasn't like a giant production. It was just a nice, simple quasi thing.
Right.
I don't know. So, I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think, let's take this, I guess this option first. Do you guys like the idea of a Muppet takeover of the Hall of Presidents?
I think that's perfectly reasonable. And one of the things that this post says is that, Disney doesn't really lean into the Muppets very much. And I never really thought about it, but I think that's accurate. What's the Muppet Show in MGM in Hollywood Studios? Muppet Vision 3D.
We call it the Muppet Show, but yeah.
Yeah. I always thought that was super cute. I always really liked that one, and I don't know, the Muppets. They're hard to dislike, right? I mean, they're just adorable little goofy things, and I really think that seeing more Muppet throughout the park is not a bad thing. While MGM is all but taken over by Star Wars, I don't think it's unreasonable to see a little more Muppet sprinkled about.
Yeah, you say that like it's a bad thing, but Glenn?
I think the Muppets, I think they hold a special place where they can be funny, but they can also be serious and get the correct message across. So I think they can do it with respect, but still make it fun for everybody.
Well, I'm kind of on an island here. I am actually, I love the Muppets. I love that show. I love the Muppet Show over at the studios. But I don't know. I get caught up in my own sense of what dignified means. I felt like Hall of Presidents always had a certain stature to it, which was almost out of place in a theme park. And I feel like if it were to switch to a kind of a Muppet theme, then it really has completely departed from, what Walt was trying to convey with, Moments with Mr. Lincoln and then the Hall of Presidents. So for me, as much as I love the Muppets and I love that little show they have there that I think they got rid of or reduced the frequency or something. I'm not too big of a fan of them taking over the Hall of Presidents for some reason.
I can get behind that line of reasoning. I'm not sure if I agree with you, but I totally understand where you're coming from. And yeah, I could make a pretty decent argument that you're right.
Yeah, I get that too. It's just that haven't we passed the decency and respect? I mean, haven't we lost that?
Well, or should we try to get it back? Like, do we do what we can to kind of? But I can understand that side of it too. I mean, some of it, to be honest, that kind of patriotism is a little Walt's time and less our time. Some would argue. So,
right.
I don't know. It'd be nice if we could kind of get it back a little bit. I think, but. I don't know. Does it stay Hall of Presidents, do you think, in terms of that name, or do they just use that space as part of Liberty Square and say, well, let's do something that's a celebration of all nations, but mostly about America?
But then you have the American Adventure in Epcot. Like, how do you not step on that?
Well, that's the thing, which, by the way, in my heart of hearts, I think is 10 times better than the Hall of Presidents. But
true.
Maybe 100 times. Yeah, you're right. Is that they become almost duplicates of each other? Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as the Hamilton rumor, I would love to see that. I was fortunate enough that my daughter really got into Hamilton about 5 years ago, and she listened to the soundtrack for forever. She knows every word backwards and forwards. And the traveling show came to New Orleans in 2019, and so for her Christmas present, I was lucky enough to score 2 tickets. And we saw it, and it was phenomenal in person, even though, obviously wasn't the original cast or anything, but the cast we had was right on. And a little note, James Carville sat like 5 rows in front of us.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. But look, Disney spent what was it, $70 million for the rights to show Hamilton, and they have so many partnerships with Lin-Manuel Miranda. Why wouldn't they do something like that? Even if it's not Hamilton, like, why wouldn't you have him write a new show or something that's about American history, and maybe you just show the presidents? But I would love something like that.
Yeah, I would definitely really enjoy it. It was funny. I think it was in 2013 when I took Erin for her 30th that maybe it was then, I don't remember when it was, but roundabouts of the America section of the World Showcase, they were doing like a super abridged version. I believe it was of Stomp, which was that musical on Broadway that was like super percussive, and they were making music with a bunch of like random household products and things like that. And I remember it was like a 15, 20, maybe 30-minute show, and it was done right in front of the America Pavilion, and I thought it was amazing. And doing like a hyper abridged version of something that is a popular modern Broadway like musical or what have you, I think it actually works really well, and doubly so if you're doing it indoors rather than outside like this particular one was. I don't know. Obviously Hamilton is not necessarily for a younger audience, but if you use your scalpel well and clip out, only the best and most family friendly parts, I think there's something to be done. There's something that could be done there. Although the more we keep talking, the more I think that maybe Chris is right, and that that area of the park, for better or for worse, is designed to be a respectful remembrance of American history. And as much as I do love Hamilton, and I shouldn't imply that it's not respectful, but it's a very narrow sliver of American history. And I think, either having Lin-Manuel like do something new, like you guys were saying, or perhaps just taking a different tack altogether might be a better fit. Even though I do want to see Hamilton show up in some capacity at Disney World, because that'd be super cool.
Seems like they should. I'm not the biggest Hamilton fan, but
I was
going
to ask, hey Chris, what do you think about Hamilton?
Yeah, I have, in my background, I have a lot of background myself and in my family of musical theater. My wife and I met because she was singing in a show that I was playing in. So, I mean, I'm not against, Broadway and theatrics at all. I'm a very theatrical person. That was supposed to be funny. But I don't know. I watched half of it and just didn't make it through the rest. So I need to get back to it.
Right.
But it is odd that everything else that I know, and I never say his name right, Lin-Manuel. Thank you. Everything else that I know he's done, I loved, including like the Moana music, etc. So, I mean, if they were, somehow to kind of overlay something from him that was Hamilton-esque in, Hamilton light, if you will, for the likes of me, that it kind of got merged into that somehow, so that they can still have, because they have a long running time. If they're going to keep kind of the same set, the same sort of structure, they could interject some other musical stuff into that along with the president somehow. I don't know. I'm not an Imagineer, clearly, but yeah, I guess I got to go back and watch the rest of that show. Have you seen Hamilton live, Casey? Or because
No.
Part of me wonders maybe I'm missing out just because I've not seen it live, and I would have a whole different impression. I don't know.
Well, I don't think you're necessarily wrong. So when everyone particularly amongst my like online podcaster friends, when Hamilton first came out in 2015 or whatever it was, everyone went berserk over it. And when I eventually, decided to look up the soundtrack on Spotify, I listened to it and I was like, okay, that's fine. And then Aaron and I watched it, a couple of days after it came out on Disney Plus. It was like 6th of July or something like that, because I believe it was on the 4th of July or thereabouts that it came out.
Right.
And we watched it, and the first time through, we were like, shell shocked, and not in the like, oh my God, that was the best thing ever way, kind of, but more like, what just happened? Because there's so much happening so quickly. And I'm also, I love music. Music is playing in our house almost 24 hours a day, but I'm the kind of music listener that doesn't pay close attention to the lyrics, which means I am ill suited for a musical where the lyrics are so important. And so the first time we watched it, we looked at each other and we were like, well, that was good, but what just happened? And so we watched it a second time, like either the next night or a couple of nights later. And then it really began to click, because now we sort of understood the flow of the show and what they were after and so on. And now we've probably watched it at least once every other week, pretty much since it came out. I absolutely adore it. And it's so funny because, again, like when I listen to it, not having seen it, I say, okay, it's fine. Like one or two songs I really enjoy, but the rest, whatever. But yeah, we absolutely love it. The both of us do. And I mean, we have relatively similar taste in music, and it's rare that one of us will put something on that the other's just like, oh. No. But it's also not entirely common for both of us to just really just grab onto something and be like, yes. And that's exactly what happened with Hamilton. And so, we didn't. But
not on the first watching.
No, not on the first watching at all. Right. And not when I listened to it, by myself back in 2015. So I would say definitely give it another shot. It maybe it won't work, but it's worth trying again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll take another run at it, because, my wife has known me for a long time and knows what I generally like and don't. And she said, you need to watch the second half. It was so much better than the first half. And so her take is that I would like that.
A lot of people say the second act is better. I don't know. I genuinely don't know if I agree, because there's a lot that I really like in the first act. And in fact, I think my favorite performance of the show maybe not the best song, maybe not, the best staging. Well, no, it actually is really good staging. But anyways, the best just overall like performance is in the first act. God, the name of the song is escaping me. It's the one where they go back in time. And you'll know it when you see it, but I can't think of the name of the song. Satisfied? No. Yes? I don't know.
Why don't you hum us a few bars and
that's
we'll
not
Shazam
happening.
it. No,
Yeah,
okay.
that's the ticket. But nevertheless,
Yeah, I think I remember that number, and I did. It wasn't like I hated the whole thing. There were certainly segments of it that I'm like, oh, that's really good. So it might be that I just need to settle into a little bit. It might have just been a mood the time I watched it, but
oh no, I was right. It's Satisfied by Renee Elise Goldsberry. Anyways, that is in the first act, and that is my favorite performance of the show. Just if you consider everything, the staging, the singing, the acting, everything about it, I think that is probably my number one of the entire show. That being said, almost everyone I know would agree that the second act is the superior of the two.
I'm with you, Casey. Believe it or not. Yeah, I prefer the first act, but the second act is very good. But if you gave me one to watch, I'm first act.
Yeah.
You're a first act man.
Well, they're all younger, right? It's about the battles, it's about the how they got there, and then the second act is the more mature.
Well, that's me. I'm the more mature one.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what? For you guys, I'll watch it and I'll report back. All right. So, but let me ask you, and I'm directing this to Glenn only because I kind of know that I'll ask my question and he'll know what I'm saying without me having to say it. So, Glenn, how well do you think a Hamilton-esque like show or staging would play at Disney World, knowing the full breadth of the kind of folk that and granted, lots of different kinds of people go there, but we're in the South. There's a lot of people that go there that to put it more bluntly, I don't know if they'd appreciate a Hamilton-ish kind of thing in Liberty Square.
Yeah, let me amend what I said. I would love to see a Hamilton production. Well, no, because as we were coming up to this, to this episode of the podcast, and I knew what we were going to be talking about, and I've seen the rumors, and since Disney paid all that money for Hamilton, I'm like, why would they pay that just to show it on Disney Plus? Like, why wouldn't they do more with it? That being said, the typical guest to Disney is not the general.
Those Venn diagrams don't overlap a lot.
Well, not a lot, but honestly, I think from a different aspect, I don't know that it would be a wise choice to put it in. And it's really about the discussion about slavery. And so when Hamilton was just on Broadway and just in play form, limited audiences got to see it, right? Sure, the soundtrack's been out there, but you have to see the whole thing and understand, get the whole scope of it, and not everybody listened to it. But once it got on Disney Plus, there was a lot more scrutiny about it, and scrutiny about Hamilton and Washington and our founding fathers. And it really deals with slavery because Washington owned slaves, right? And Hamilton, like they had, and that's what the play does hit on it, that there were many places where they could have done something about slavery, but they didn't. And the question goes to, and this is a way bigger discussion about just our history in general. And it's not really about Hamilton. It's about the, American history and how we started. It wasn't great, even with the presentation of the Hall of Presidents. And that's why Lincoln is the perfect person to have speak, because that was, really the turning point for our history. But before that, it's like, do we really want to, hold these guys up? Yeah, they created the country and they did what they needed to do. And that's all great. But slavery was a big thing. Do we really want to hold them up in 2020 and beyond, when we are hopefully, waking up to see, what was our history really like, and being inclusive. I just don't know that whether it's, a Hamilton production or a new anything, I don't know that Disney could present something that really glorifies our founding fathers, as wacky as that sounds.
Mm.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, when you're at Disney World, I don't think you're seeking a lesson on how all of our founding fathers were kind of dirtbags. You know, that's kind of contrary to the kind of happy-go-lucky, you know, most magical place on earth kind of motif that Disney's going for. However, you know, I think one of the good things to have come over the last year and all the terrible things that have happened over the last year is that we are starting, certainly for the more than I've witnessed in my almost 40 years on the planet, I feel like we are starting to have a reckoning with our history and with how broken so many of our systems are. And so on the one side, like, you know, the extremely privileged white guy here wants to be like, no, I don't want to hear that when I go to Disney World. Like, I just want to have fun, man. But then again, I think there is something to be said for taking the stage, both in the figurative and literal sense that Disney has in the Hall of Presidents, and doing something progressive and educational with it. You know, there's surely a way to thread the needle and say, look, these men did incredible things while also doing incredibly bad things. And if anyone can thread that needle, I got to imagine that Disney can.
Yeah, I do get that. Face it head on and really make it a lesson for people.
Exactly.
I get that.
I don't know. When they take my idea, ruin everything, they can blame me. That's right.
No, I'd like to see that too. I think I'm just thinking about what the challenge with that would be, and I think it's just because as a country we haven't figured out how to tell that story yet, right? Because because it is both those things, right? And I think, you know, a lot of people have a natural negative reaction when you do talk honestly about, you know, well, Washington had slaves, et cetera, that everything they did wasn't as amazing as, you know, I grew up because I'm super old, I grew up in the bicentennial era, and I love that time, and I love, you know, kind of colonial times and the sort of that you know, America was just a wonderful kind of experiment. And how do we get a realistic picture of our background that doesn't alienate one side or another? And I think Disney would be, while I'd love to see that, and it's certainly a head-on challenge that others like the Smithsonian and you know, organizations that do that more for a living, if you will, of telling accurate stories. Disney might have a hard time with that because there's no sort of accepted way to tell that story that we can that a lot of people can get behind. So I'm not against it. I don't know how they would do that. But I'm not against it. So Glenn, it's up to you to fix it. You got to figure out what to do. So, yeah. All right. So, or you know what? You guys convinced me. I think the Muppets is probably the best angle to go. Right?
See,
now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that is the best route. But no, I am curious if we, okay, so we got kind of like these, I'll say, I don't want to say extremists. That's a wrong word to use these days. A sort of out there. We've got Muppets. We've got Hamilton overlays. What if we want to stick with the sort of, and this is, a lot of ways like Apple, Disney's a little bit conservative and they kind of stick to into their ruts. So if they stay with the idea of the Hall of Presidents, stay with the idea of animatronics, but kind of everything else is on the table, where do you guys think they should or will go in that kind of context?
I think if they were to keep everything visually the same, then I don't see any reason to really mess with the system. I'd say to keep the general spirit of the show the same and just, lightly refresh it. I think that would be fine. The more I think about it, the more I think, confronting our troubled heritage is the more dangerous but better approach. But that being said, I don't think it's necessarily just phoning it in to just, do a new coat of paint, if you will, add your 46th figure up there and call it a day. But I don't know. I would hope for more. I really would hope for more. And I guess you could go completely bananas and you could say, they could really revamp everything. And what isn't there some like next generation animatronics that's used in like the Avatar ride that's supposed to be like way more fluid and all that? Like you could, go completely bananas and update all of the or perhaps a large subset of the animatronics there to use these fancier, smoother, new animatronics, and really just, even if it's still a stage show, it's not like a ride or anything like that, still just make it more dynamic and interesting than perhaps it was before.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. We've talked before about it, at least from my standpoint, I'd love to see them do more with more advanced animatronics and robotics and stuff. So if this is the place for that, that'd be great. Do you guys think they should stick with the recording of the contemporary presidents?
I do not. I think they need to get rid of that.
Okay, explain yourself, sir.
It should be Lincoln, and that's it. And hey, Biden, nice to see you. You can wave. And I think that's Disney saying, hey, look, guys, we want as little controversy as possible from every attraction, and this is our most controversial one, and it doesn't need to be. We can just display them and have Abraham Lincoln speak, and then we'll call it a day.
Because Lincoln really is the one that it seems everybody can get behind, right? I was watching a lot of the congressional commentary, like many of us over the last couple of weeks, and like Democrats, Republicans, everybody quotes Lincoln like all the time.
Right.
So, and maybe in a way that is the right focus to have, because it is the unifying bridge between old world, new world, reunification kind of stuff. So I don't know, like maybe they even have a revised great what was it? Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln 2, if you will. You know what I mean? Kind of have a like a supersized version of that, the Walt Disney World version of that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what it was when it opened.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Okay.
It was pretty much the same speech. And but they just gave a video presentation of the history, and then they just introduced all the presidents, and they just stood there.
An interesting point made on the same post that I keep bringing up was, what if you took the Hall of Presidents, and a lot of the shtick of the post was, we should just get rid of the Hall of Presidents because it's so divisive and there's so much angst these days. But one of the ideas that was floated was, what if you do the Hall of Presidents, but you don't have the two most recent presidents? So in this case, they're saying with Biden the incumbent, that means no Obama and no Trump, and obviously no Biden either. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting point. I don't know if I agree with it on account of there being so much precedent for it being all of the presidents, but I thought it was an interesting halfway. Another interesting halfway is to not really have a big drawn out speech by the current president and just have them say something like, thanks for coming, God bless America, in their actual voice or something like that. But thanks for coming, get out of here, or something like that. Just so there's enough awesome. That, enough that they're involved, but not so much.
Go buy a churro.
Yeah, right. It's enough that they're involved, but it's not so much that you're like, oh God, really? And be that Trump or Biden or anyone else. It's just a kind of a nod that yes, they're important. They are the current president, for better or for worse, but it's not some grandstanding or anything like that.
I think that if they're going to make any changes, it's going to be this time, so that if they're going to keep the Hall of Presidents and keep it generally in the same as always has been, kind of, I think this is the time they're going to make the change and either have, if Biden speaks, then it's done. Like, they're going to have every president speak if they agree to it. If they don't have him speak, then that's the future. And so I think this is it, though. I think this is when they're going to make any changes. That's my prediction.
And it's going to take a year?
That's a great question, man. Given how old he looks walking in the parade yesterday, they better hurry up because they got to get
Stop. He's doing more every day than you are.
Animatronic ready soon.
Yeah, I didn't see your schedule posted to the internet today. You're doing more than you are.
That's true. Okay, that's true.
Yeah. Okay. What'd you do? You did a podcast. My goodness.
This is hard work, you guys. Gosh.
I had to press record and everything twice. I don't know where we go from it. And so
I will say I never saw the Trump show.
That's right.
I refused to go in. So I haven't seen it since 2015, 2016, whatever the last time I went before Trump was in place. I have no idea what it's like. I have no idea what his speech is. I don't.
You didn't watch any of it,
nope. I refused to watch
more research than you did.
Yes, that's true. Thank you, Casey. But yeah, I refused to watch it because
it was fine. Other than the fact that I find his voice grating, and I'll leave it at that. It was fine. It was unremarkable.
It was teleprompter Trump, right? So
yeah, exactly. It was presidential Trump, as people were wont to say.
That never happened. I never once saw that. But actually, I just thought of a reason but they need to have Biden speak in this one. Because we can't have Trump be the last president to have spoken in the Hall of Presidents.
that's a good point.
Yeah, but Clinton was the first one. Like,
Yeah, well,
you know,
it's also a good
I think
point.
we just call it an anomaly for a few presidents. But let me flip on that, right? Okay, if we don't have Biden speak, then let's say, Kamala Harris becomes the next president, right? I would love to take my daughter to go see the Hall of Presidents if she's in it and hear what she has to say, right? Because she's the first female president at that point. Like that would actually
That's
be
a good
great
point.
for anybody to go and see. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
some people wouldn't. Some people wouldn't like that. But you know what?
of course.
But you made me. But those two things you just said, kind of back to back, make me maybe change my answer because I was generally in the camp of they need to redo it, focus on Lincoln that everybody can get behind, and let's just get back to something we can all appreciate. But you know what? Nobody has to go to the Hall of Presidents. And so if the current president isn't your cup of tea, whatever president that is, just like you didn't go when Trump was there, then nothing says you have to go there. So maybe it's a bigger win for the kind of scenario you're talking about where it could be inspiring to somebody to not lose out on that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good take. And gosh knows, I hope we're going to see fewer old white dudes. Like, it seems like we're trending in that direction slightly, but
I don't know. Well, we keep going to older white dudes. So
yeah, well, touche. But
no, I agree with you, but it does have that sort of that general sense, right? So.
Yeah. It's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
There you are.
Nice.
Nicely done. See, that's professionalism
Casey
right there,
is hitting
Glenn.
it out of the park tonight.
This is the kind of level I've been telling you need to get to.
I know.
All right. Well, you keep working on that. All right. Well, on that note, I don't know where else to take this. I guess we'll see where it goes. But it's closed right now. Can't go see any of it right now. So, all right. Well, this was good. This was, and I'm not just saying this just to, because Casey's here, but this is one of my favorite discussions. We should do more deeper conversations like this.
We should.
Unless of Glenn complaining about the price of annual passes.
Hey, well, at least because World still has annual passes, right? It's just Land that canned them. Is that correct?
Well.
Oh, that's
okay. What have I done? I'm so sorry.
Okay,
gotta go, everybody.
So Chris has an annual pass.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I dutifully pay for that every month. I keep paying for it.
So anybody who currently has an annual pass still has it, but you cannot, since the pandemic started last year and they closed, you cannot, to this day, you still cannot buy a new annual pass to Disney World.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
But this is in contrast with Land, where I thought they had absolutely announced that it is not a thing anymore. Is that correct?
That is correct. They ended it and refunded everybody's money. So it's like, okay, we're wiping the slate clean.
Interesting.
We'll get back with you with what, if anything, we're going to do in the future.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I think it is too. They seem to have this really, they can't seem to figure out how they feel about annual pass holders. And Glenn's educated me quite a few times. The pass holder situation in LA is very different than in Florida, right, Glenn? So more so, can you explain, since we're on this track, why not? Can you explain?
Yeah. So in California, it is like everybody has an annual pass to Disneyland because it's, as much as Disneyland wants to be a destination park, it's not. It's a regional park. It's a big, beautiful regional park, but the vast majority of the visitors there are Californians. And so they sell a buttload. I've seen estimates that up to 60% of the attendance on any day are annual pass holders.
Wow.
Compare that to Disney World, where the estimate is about 15% of the attendees are annual pass holders on any day. So but Disney World is a destination, right? It's way more international travel, and people go there and stay and for a week and never leave Disney property. So the annual passes are pass holder counts are very different, and so Disneyland, they on the weekends they would, like, just during a normal weekend during the year, they would have to close because
of capacity.
Yeah, they would hit capacity so quick because so many locals would just go, and then they've instituted blackout dates and everything else, but it's they're having a major problem with crowds and controlling those crowds and really planning and knowing, what is today going to bring? Because people just go after work. They just show up. And they have no sense of who's going to come today. Whereas Disney World, they have hotels. They can tell by occupancy. They can plan a lot better. And the AP pool is a lot lower there. So it's not, even if you had all the annual pass holders go, it's still not going to make too much of an effect. Especially, they're not going to have to close a park, right? So it varies so much. And that's why Disney World, they haven't done anything with their annual passes yet. So... But like I told Chris, I wouldn't be surprised if they did do something at least to get in alignment with Disneyland or wipe the slate clean and maybe do it a little bit different so that everybody has to at least plan the days that they're going to go, even if you have an annual pass.
That makes sense. Oh, didn't they also get rid of most of the Fast Pass system or something like that?
It's all turned off right now, yeah.
Wow. So is that well received at the moment? I guess since crowds are so small, it's not so bad. But I'm very curious to see how that goes in the future because I have such mixed feelings on like Fast Pass Plus and and so on. And I think we talked about that one of the times I've been on before. Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like it is not unreasonable to have a rethink of the whole Fast Pass system. And I don't think that not having it or something like it is the right plan. But I'm also not sure that booking 2-minute theme park rides, 3 or 4 or 6 months in advance, whatever it is. I'm not sure that's really the best solution either. So It now seems like a pretty good time to rethink that sort of thing.
And I've seen articles about that. There's many rumors, but one of the most common rumors is that they will institute essentially what they had with the paper fast passes, where it was day of only. So it'll still be electronic, but you won't be able to get a fast pass until that day, which would help people day guests who just go for the day, or annual pass holders who just, go for the day. It would take away that huge advantage that the resort guests have, being able to, pick fast passes 60 days before they arrive.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an old man. I like simple things and the way it used to be. But I mean, for me, anything that kind of gets rid of the having to schedule it and plan it so far ahead and soaking up all the inventory, for lack of a better term. But I can't separate out how much I dislike it just because it works against me, because our pattern is just like, hey, it's a nice day. Should we go out? We got annual passes and we go. But then inevitably it's like, oh, well, we can't go on that because, Glenn got all the fast passes for that 6 months ago when he was planning his trip. Yeah. But that kind of thing. So it's really frustrating to not enjoy it. So I'd be happy to see all of Fast Pass go. I'd actually be happy to see annual pass go, just and partly just for personal reasons, because I end up sort of on this treadmill where, well, I might as well just renew because we get a discount to renew. And so, it's a fairly significant annual expense that we just keep paying for. And this year paying for it without really getting to use it. So, but I'd almost rather just pay on a per visit basis, maybe give Florida residents a discount on those regular tickets or whatever. But I'd be fine if they get rid of that. I don't know if I like the idea of the park reservations being a permanent thing though, because that still feels like I don't know. That doesn't sit well with me, but may just be I haven't done it enough, but I don't know.
I think that's here to stay.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
So, okay. So similar to, what am I saying? So what it is today is you have to go online, and how much of a window ahead do they give you to book it? Is it months ahead of time?
Yeah, because apparently October 1st of this year is booked up. The Magic Kingdom.
Oh, that's right. I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
For the 50th. Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently out till October at least.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, because that, to me, that just feels like Fast Pass, scaled up, which is just whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't want to leave on that down note. What else you got, Glenn? The death of the influencers. We could cover that.
Oh, that would be nice.
Do you, Casey? Do you mind if I ask? Do you watch many YouTubers on like Disney stuff? Like
probably not
Disney
stuff. I'm not I don't know. I'm in that in-between age where I do look at YouTube to some degree, and there's a handful of people that I'll watch regularly. But no, I don't typically follow any Disney people on YouTube. Why is there some big kerfuffle about that? I take it.
Well, you're really missing out. You should go spend all of your time watching the Disney influencers. No, well, it kind of, and Glenn, you can correct me. I'll explain this poorly, but part of that whole kerfuffle about the annual passes is that a lot of that, there's a lot of these influencers at all different strata over covering every single thing that's happening there. And so, they're getting, they're buying annual passes, going, multiple times a week or multiple times a day, spending very little money that doesn't make Disney very happy, them making money off of, recording from the parks and stuff. So it's become kind of a hot issue. I don't want to say it's Disney versus the influencers, but there's definitely some sort of, undercurrent that's happening there, right?
Yeah, it's insane. And it's not just, there's influencers, but the majority are wannabe influencers, right? They're trying to do this. They're trying to make their living off of going to Disney World. And because there are a few very successful people who have done it, but everybody else is trying to get there. And so what happens is, a good example that happened like literally last week was, since the parks have just opened since the pandemic and you have to have a reservation, generally multiple days out, when Disney opens something, like it's fairly for that first day or two until everybody can get that reservation for that park, it's generally like chill, right? It's not overwhelmed or anything. But there's this cookie store at Disney Springs that opened up last week. And they had an 11-hour wait to get in to buy cookies. Yeah. And it was all these influencers who wanted to be the first ones there to show the cookies on their channel or Instagram, whatever it is, and give that content to their viewers. And it's just, they're starved for content. And there's just so many of them. It's just insane.
That's something else.
I have this picture of just like every single person getting to the front of that 11-hour queue, getting their cameras out. Hey guys, what's up? I'm just here at the new cookie place. Be sure to mash that subscribe and hit the bell, blah, blah, blah. Every single one of them over and over and over. Anyway, I don't know. I can't get behind the influencers. But
one question for Casey before we go.
All right.
Yeah.
Casey, are you a fan of the Haunted Mansion?
See, well, I thought we were going to end on a good note.
I like where this is going. Go ahead.
It's not that I'm actively not a fan of the Haunted Mansion, but it doesn't really rev my engine in any particular way. Like if I have the opportunity, I'll ride it. It's not that I'll actively avoid it or anything like that. But I don't get the incredible like nostalgia that it appears most, if not many people, or many if not most people get off of it. I enjoy it. It's neat, but I find it, to my eyes, to be this is going to sound way more negative than I mean, but it's like a relic of a bygone era. Like it's very 60s technology, or at least it feels that way to me. And it's which is fun in and of itself. That's fine. Like look at Carousel Tomorrow, which I love. Like that's all bogus old technology. Or Carousel of Progress, excuse me. But I don't know. For some reason, Haunted Mansion, it just never really clicked for me in the way that I think a lot of other stuff, like Spaceship Earth is another good example. Like I know they're refurbishing it, or either they are or they were, they are soon. But that also is like old and slow and kind of boring if you're really honest with yourself. But I love Spaceship Earth. Like how could you not love Spaceship Earth? And how could you not love the Haunted Mansion? I don't know. I just don't love it.
All right. Well, man. Okay.
I don't, Glenn, I don't know where you're going with this, but I have such a smug smile on my face right now. I got to tell you,
But I will concede though that I am the weird one here, because almost everyone I know loves the Haunted Mansion. So I think I'm the odd man out, except maybe Chris and I are the odd man out, but.
Because I'm kind of in the same camp where intellectually I can appreciate it. I know it's history and it's one of the earliest attractions, and so I get that. But part of it with me is I'm not into that kind of style of like Halloween and mansions and ghosts, and that's just not me. Mm-hmm. But by the way, your comments on Spaceship Earth, them's fighting words. So it was up and down for me in that last conversation.
Well, no, again, I love Spaceship Earth. I love it, but I mean, if we're really honest with ourselves, it's not it's not particularly advanced technology, and even when we went a little over a year ago, like it was clearly dated. Now, to their credit, that's why it's being refurbished and whatnot. But I don't know, it's not a very technically impressive thing, aside from the fact that you're going, up this tremendous ball that's suspended on 4 or 5 posts. Like that's pretty neat.
Right.
But I don't feel like the show itself is that remarkable. But in the same way that I don't think the Carousel of Progress is that remarkable, and Spaceship Earth isn't that remarkable, I don't think Haunted Mansion is that remarkable. But yet people seem to love it in a way that I just don't.
So Glenn, why are you asking?
Well, I was asking because it's there's only 3 attractions in Liberty Square, and it's Hall of Presidents, Haunted Mansion, and the Liberty Square Riverboat. And so I was just throwing a softball out there.
Yeah, little did you know.
You were.
Man. Well, and because I'm reading a book right now about the Haunted Mansion, and I was going to recommend it if you were a fan, but never mind. Now.
So what's the book?
Have we done a history? Have we done a history on the Hall of Mansion?
No, we have
Mansion?
not.
I think we need to get that on the list, man.
Oh God, that's a big one. The book is Boundless Realm. Deep Explorations Inside Disney's Haunted Mansion by Fox Nolte. It is in depth, but it's very good. To me, the Haunted Mansion was always kind of a hodgepodge of stuff, and that's kind of how it started, right? Walt had passed away, and so they had built the facade for the Haunted Mansion when they built New Orleans Square in Disneyland, but they never opened, they didn't know what to do with it, because they didn't know, do we make it really scary? Do we not? Whatever. And so there were basically 3 designers for the Haunted Mansion who kind of just mashed up their ideas, and that's what we got. And so there's not like a really one cohesive story through it. And that's always been like, well, why aren't, why am I not getting this whole, a story out of this? I'm just seeing like what's supposed to be some scary stuff, but reading this book, it's like, oh, now, it kind of connects the dots, and it goes through the history of, oh, why was this done this way? And so it's like I said, it's just connecting the dots for me a lot better. I am a fan of it, but it's mostly because it's a ride that my wife and I rode all the time. It was the first ride I took my daughter on. So there's a lot of history there for me. But yeah, so that's why this book it's making me appreciate the Haunted Mansion even more than I already did.
A couple of quick notes on this. First of all, if you're not familiar with Technology Connections, which is a YouTube channel that I do periodically watch, I don't remember the host's name, but he goes through and does a really good, almost 15-minute video on the not so secret elevators of the Haunted Mansion. And that's really worth a watch. It's really, really good. He has a handful of other Disney related ones. He's the same one that talks about the Disney secret third people mover, which I probably brought up with you guys at some point or another. But basically, there's a Disney people mover in, I think it's the Dallas airport, if I'm not mistaken.
Houston.
Houston.
Oh, Houston. Okay, I'm sorry. And he does a really good video on all that. But anyway, if we're really honest with each other, and I like to think we're friendly enough that we can be honest with each other, the best attraction in Liberty Square is hands down Columbia Harbor House. I mean, come on.
Oh my God.
I think we can
so
all
good.
agree on
Okay,
that.
we're good. Okay,
Yeah.
this is exactly how we're going to end this.
Okay, see, there we go.
I am
Brought it back
behind that
around.
1,000%. That is the
I love
greatest
Columbia Harbor House.
restaurant in all of Walt Disney World.
Well, I don't know if I could go quite that
come
far.
on.
but
We
I
had it-
absolutely
we had it
love
going upstairs and sitting in the room that is over the path into Fantasyland.
I don't know if I've ever done that. I
Oh
knew
my
there was an
God, Casey, you
upstairs, but
gotta
I don't
do
think I've ever
that.
done that.
That is
man.
that is the best. And
It
I
is.
messed up.
I've learned so many great things about life from Glenn, but that was one of the earliest ones that he taught me, was because I don't think Melissa and I ever went there before we knew you, Glenn. And then when you taught us that, I'm like, yeah, it completely changed our attitude about it.
Yeah, I mean, I love the food there. It's not remarkable, if I'm really honest, but it's
of course
It's
not.
good. It's really good food. And then like the lobster roll, which is like $904, is delicious, and the fried shrimp and whatnot is really, really good. And so Aaron and I always make a point of going there. But I knew that there was an upstairs, but I did not know that there was a particular spot. So tell me again, what is the magic of the upstairs in Columbia Harbor House?
Okay, so if you go and not a, so that's number one, is not a lot of people go upstairs because they think it's reserved, or they think the stairs are just fake, facade stairs or something.
Or you have strollers and stuff, and I don't know if there's an elevator. I can't really go up there, but yeah.
So you go upstairs, but there's one room that actually is built over the pathway between Fantasyland and Liberty Square. It's kind of connected to what's now Memento Mori, the Haunted Mansion store. But if you go up there and sit by the windows, you can see you can see everybody walking underneath you. You can see it's a small world. So it's just a nice little, and usually nobody's up there, so you kind of have the room to yourself. So that's my favorite. If I'm there, like that's my happy place.
That's awesome.
So I'm in Disney World, and then I'm in there, like I'm so insulated, like that is absolutely my happy place.
One of the things that I occasionally hear when I talk to David Sparks, who's a fellow podcaster and a friend of mine, he lives very, very close to Disneyland, and his wife either did or does work there. I'm not 100% sure at this point, but he would say that he would just pop into Disneyland and like do work there, like sit on a bench or like go to a restaurant or whatever and just do work. And I can only imagine how awesome it would be to like pop into Columbia Harbor House and go to this upstairs that I didn't even know existed, and just sit down, like do work for a while, like get yourself a lobster roll for $904 and just do work for a little while, which would be great. No, that's extremely cool. I will say though, my favorite, and we just discovered this last time we went, my favorite place to get a quick service meal in Magic Kingdom might be Friar's Nook, because they do the tater tot based like mashups, and man, those are good. Oh, those are super good.
Yeah, I've seen those
you gotta get
on the
from
YouTube.
The influencers.
I hate to say it, but you're right. I've never tried it.
You got to get on that. Oh, Aaron had the buffalo chicken one, and I forget what I had. It was like, I think, knowing me, it was like bacon and mac and cheese and like tater tots. It's caloric and carbohydrate bomb. But you're in Disney World. You're on vacation.
So that's not the time
and so why not?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so
cool.
good.
All right, well, guys, it's getting late, and I got to go watch Hamilton. So
yeah, that's right. It's like 2.5, 3 hours. So you got to get on that.
Right. All right, Glenn, did we cover everything? Was there anything we missed?
We did.
Mr.
Thank you.
Schedule
Thank
keeper?
you both.
Right.
Casey, thank you for joining us once again.
Oh, the pleasure is always mine.
Yeah,
thank you.
Awesome to have you on, man. I appreciate it. All right.
Well,
I guess next time. So Haunted Mansion next time? Is that the next show?
No. I need no.
Yeah.
we'll think of something else. But Haunted Mansion's way out of my realm.
So
right
a couple more where we complain about annual passes.
That's right.
And fast pass.
That's right.
All right. Good. All right. Then we'll get back to it. All right. Good. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Thank you so much.
Right, bye.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Starport 75. Follow Chris on Twitter and Instagram at CBGray, and Glenn on Twitter and Instagram at DizWiz. Follow the show on Twitter and Facebook at Starport75 and Instagram at TheStarport75. For all things related to the show, including show notes and links to connect with us, visit us at starport75.com.